Well, oh, I'm getting a little bit of delay here. Bear with me. Okay, there we go. For some reason, the intro was still. Um, and I'm getting some feedback. There we go. Okay. My apologies for that. I had too many things going on at once, right? If you multitask like I do, you kind of feel my pain. Sometimes I get my tabs and things mixed up. But so I wanted to talk about, and I really, this is something that I've been wanting to get to actually earlier this month, or actually toward the tail end of December as we go into 2024, right? Um, about how do we find shippers as freight brokers, right? So there's many ways that we can go about finding shippers as a freight broker. Before I get into all of that, guys, if you like these videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, that bell notification. And if you would please, if you enjoy these and your, any of the tools, tips, resources that we provide, typically I try to remember to keep all the links in the description. So please visit and support our sponsors. They help support the channel and it's very much appreciated. So, how do we find shippers as freight brokers? Well, there's a lot of different ways that we can go about doing that. Utilizing social media, right? Things like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, right? And speaking of LinkedIn, just as a little sidebar on that, if you don't already have a LinkedIn profile, like a personal profile, get one, right? And if you are have your own brokerage, create a business profile on LinkedIn. It's so important. Those shippers that maybe are seeking out a freight broker to help with their operations and things. That might be a shipper in your area. Let's say you're in Atlanta or something, for instance, and they're having a very poor experience with their current broker. Maybe hiring on, not vetting their carriers, and carriers are constantly showing up late for appointments or whatever the case may be. They might be looking out elsewhere. Maybe they're a smaller shipper or a medium-sized shipper, and they're not getting quite all the calls that a lot of other companies might get on a day-to-day. So they're doing their own research and reaching out on their own, right? It's happened to me. I've had plenty of shippers reach out to me via LinkedIn. Just have those profiles set up. Okay. You can also use the LinkedIn search, right? So we can go to LinkedIn and just type in shipping manager, right? Or transportation manager. And you will find a ton of results. Now, the one thing I will warn you about, following that route, is that you're typically going to end up with a vast array of different types of companies, different types of freight, what type of equipment that they require, right? Whether it be dry van, reefer, open deck, bulk, drayage, whatever, right? So that's sort of a shotgun method that we can use to find shippers. And if you've picked out your niche, which I highly suggest, I'm sure many of you have probably heard this in the past, is that riches are in niches. And there's a reason why veterans in the industry typically say this, right? It almost sounds preachy or overly redundant, but when you become an expert in your niche, as you make more and more of those prospect calls, emails, face-to-faces, things like that, whatever your approach is to that, your knowledge on handling that type of shipment, right? Like whether it be produce or steel or frozen chicken or plastics or lumber or whatever, right? I could go on for probably hours all the different types of things, right? When we can relay that we're an expert in that niche, that really helps us sell ourselves and acquire that customer, because you're not going to come across as somebody that maybe just finished their freight broker training, which I'll get into that here in a little bit. And they're going to be more likely to trust you with their freight, right? So find a niche, follow through on it, whatever it is. Maybe you have a hobby, right? And I don't care what it is. Maybe it's you're into RC, cars, planes, helicopters, that kind of thing, right? So reach out to those companies that are shipping RC stuff. And maybe they're only shipping LTL, but typically your profit margins on LTL freight are pretty good. Even in a down market, they're still pretty good, percentage-wise, right? So if you have access to shipping LTL freight, then that might be something to look into. Maybe you were a welder in the past and you've decided to jump into freight brokering. So steel is like your thing, right? Or aluminum or whatever. Just a couple of examples there with that. That knowledge of that product is going to come across during your sales call, right? And so again, find a niche, follow through on it, and run with it. And that doesn't mean that you can't diversify your book of business, as you grow and expand, right? If that's something that you decide you want to do, hey, more power to you. I know that there are some brokers out there that do that. There's some that during their entire career as a freight broker or a freight agent, they stick to that one niche, right? They never deviate away from it, and they make bank, right? Because they're an expert in their niche. Okay. So moving on, utilizing social media. We kind of went over LinkedIn, right, as an example on how we can find shippers. Actually, what I should do is I should probably elaborate on that a little bit. As you're searching out different companies, right, we can use Google to search out, let's just say, going back to our example of steel, right? I'm just going to pick that out. When we start looking up steel manufacturers or distributors in the U.S., right? That's a pretty simple Google search that we can do. That's going to list off directories and things like this. List of manufacturers and things, and then we can jump over to LinkedIn, look up that company, right? Find out who our point of contact is. Typically, sometimes that's not always updated, or sometimes people say, I work at Tesla, and reality is they're flipping burgers at McDonald's or something, right? So a little bit, do your due diligence when you're seeking out your point of contact there. But for the most part, and you can make that connection with them, right? And when you do, try not to just send a blanket, connect, hit that button. Provide something of value, right? Maybe it's maybe we're in a capacity shortage, and you came across an article discussing the current capacity shortage, or something like that. It's just an example, and share that with them, right? Especially if they're a small to a medium-sized company, they might not be completely aware of that, right? So, excuse me. When you can educate your prospect or your customer, once they become a customer, they're again more likely to entrust you with their freight or more freight, right? Maybe you're one of 3 brokers that's already currently working with a customer, but the other brokers are more or less, I get the list, I book the truck, boop, done, But when you start to build that relationship and share information with your customer, That's where referrals start to come in, because those transportation managers, shipping managers, logistics managers, whatever their title is, they know other people with the same job title at different companies typically, right? So when they're communicating with each other, maybe it's one of the companies that they ship to, right? Bob talks to Joe from ABC Plastic Pellets, and he's talking to Joe over at XYZ Plastic Coat Hangers Manufacturing or something, right? Kind of a weird example, but you get what I'm saying. Your raw material customer is shipping to a customer that takes that raw material and turns it into something, right? And maybe whoever their broker is, they're having issues with, and they're like, Joel, call Bob or shoot him an email and say, Bob, do you have anybody that I could, maybe, you could put me in contact with, because, my current broker, these trucks just aren't reliable, or, they're delivering to Walmart late or wherever, things like this, or they're not responding. It seems like I can't get a hold of them after 2 o'clock, or whatever the case may be, right? Though you can, that customer of yours, while sometimes they can be a little bit, and I've had this happen, I'm not sharing you with anybody. I want you on my, handling just my freight. But sometimes, they'll be like, oh yeah, hey, Tim's been great with us. He always lets me know when the truck's been dispatched, when it's, when he's 15 minutes out, when he's loaded and rolling, that he's, 30 minutes away from delivery. All these things, provides me with tracking updates, that kind of thing. Always make sure that paperwork's processed. And if we run into a last minute, load outside of our regular shipments or something last minute came in at 3 or 4 o'clock, and we stopped shipping at 5, he's on it. He's got a great, pool of carriers that he's built, some tremendous relationships with, that kind of thing. That goes a long way into getting those referrals. So referrals is another way of getting, sourcing customers. We mentioned Google just a little while ago. You can look up, maybe you're looking for dry van freight. It doesn't really matter what it is, but you've decided that your niche is going to be in moving dry van freight. And you can kind of familiarize yourself with some general product and that type of thing, right? So maybe, start looking up industrial parks. Maybe let's just use Dallas as an example. Look up Dallas area industrial parks. Okay. And typically there'll be like a Google listing of all these different companies that are doing business in these industrial parks. Okay. So that's another way. We mentioned directories. Now there's a lot of different directories out there, and I'm going to say that some are better than others. One that I'm not a big fan of that I've used in the past is ZoomInfo. ZoomInfo is expensive, and they claim, and there's other ones like them, they claim to have, all the updated information, contact information, and things like this. But when you call and you say, hey, I want to talk to Bob at ABC Plastics, right? No Bob has ever worked there, or Bob left here 2 years ago, right? Some of that information is sort of either outdated or it's completely wrong. And for the price that you pay for it, I just don't see the value in it personally. If you're currently using it and you're having better success with it than I have, then by all means keep using it, guys. By the way, the live chat is open, so if you have any questions or anything you'd like to add, to what I'm saying, by all means. Hey, I love the feedback. I love reading your comments. So, but yeah, with the directories, you could look up USA plastic manufacturers or steel manufacturers and distributors, things like this. You're going to get a ton of different listings for different steel companies or plastic companies or clothing companies, whatever, right? Whatever it is that you're trying to search. And typically a lot of those directories are free, right? ThomasNet is another one that you can use, right? A lot of us have heard of ThomasNet. For those of you that are very new to the industry and not aware of this, I hope that you guys are finding some of this beneficial. For those of you that might be veterans in the industry or been in the industry for a few years, some of this might be a little bit redundant to you, but hopefully throughout this you'll find a nugget or two that will help you find some additional leads. Okay. So ThomasNet is another one. There's plenty of produce directories. Sometimes there's actually state directories for different things. You can look up, let's say, I don't know, South Carolina steel distributors or something, if you want to narrow it down, right? So let's just say that you've got flatbed carriers that you've built a relationship with, right? And you want to keep doing business with them because some of the loads that you've worked with them on in the past, they've always been reliable, communication is great, and you're really trying to strengthen that relationship. Look up, those shippers in their area. You might even be able to narrow it down to that city, right? And then find out where those companies are shipping. So let's just say they're shipping out of Charlotte, North Carolina, for instance, right? And one of those shippers, they're shipping, I don't know, 20 loads a week to Chicago, right? So, I'll come back around to that. My mind, I'm always one step ahead of myself sometimes. So what you want to do is start looking for those shippers in Chicago that are maybe shipping back to Charlotte, North Carolina, or say within a 50 or 100 mile radius of Charlotte. And essentially what you can do is put together a dumbbell for your carriers, right? They're not hunting and pecking the load board. You're not randomly scrolling across the country looking for other shippers and things, right? And it benefits you, it benefits them, because it becomes kind of a no-brainer, right? You're sending your partner carriers to Chicago, and then you reach out to them and say, hey, we've got another shipper there in Chicago that's going right back to Charlotte, right? Boom. All right, tell me about it. Let's do this. And it just kind of becomes sort of what I've always liked to refer to as sort of like a rinse and repeat method, because now your carrier knows your shipper in Charlotte, he knows your shipper in Chicago, what their requirements are, right, and everything. Both of those customers can rely on you because you've proven that you've got capacity on both ends of that. And depending upon what TMS you're using, a lot of times you can just duplicate on those orders, fill in your pickup numbers, PO numbers, or whatever other requirements that you have to have on that rate confirmation, and it cuts down on a lot of your work, right? Which allows you more time during your day to further your prospecting throughout the day, the week, the month, etc., right? And expanding your book of business. I know a lot of brokers that a lot of brokers that only have like half a dozen customers, and they're doing 6 figures a year. You don't have to have 100 customers, right? So like I said, focus on your niche and that. I did have another little sidebar that I was going to mention, and I've gotten so far ahead of myself, I've kind of forgotten what it was. But yeah, utilize those directories. They're typically free online. Do the little bit of legwork, right? Search LinkedIn, find out who those are. Oftentimes too, as you build your carrier relationships, I've had carriers in the past go, hey, I was doing these loads for ABC broker, but anytime we ever had a problem, they don't answer the phone, right? Or they never pay me detention. They tell me no appointment time needed. It was first come, first serve. But, come to find out, we get there and, there is an appointment. Oftentimes, if they like you, they'll send you over the bill lady, right? And the point of contact over there because they like you, right? They would rather work with you. And maybe they say, I booked this load for $1,400. Come to find out that the broker was getting paid $2,000 on it. If you can do better than 14 for me, here's the information. I'd rather run those loads with you, right? You take care of them, they take care of you, everybody's happy. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways that we can go about finding shippers, right? We mentioned utilizing social media. We mentioned getting referrals from your customer. Now, that is another sidebar that I should mention that I forgot to earlier, is that when it comes to getting referrals from your customer, you can actually ask them for referrals, but I wouldn't do it after moving their freight for 2 weeks, right? Build that relationship first. Prove yourself, right? And something that I've mentioned in previous videos is what we always want to do, or at least for my own self, is I always try to under-promise and over-deliver, right? And you kind of come across as a hero. I've got some customers that are completely devoted to me. They won't use another outside broker or trucking company or anything, because we've built that relationship. And when you can do that, that's when the world starts to turn for you, right? So yeah, don't be too overly anxious to do that. And then we also mentioned, this is something, I actually had this discussion last week with another veteran in the industry, and it seems like for some of us that have been in the industry for quite some time, we were always sort of trained that, like, if we're sending trucks in, going back to our Charlotte, North Carolina to Chicago, Illinois, if we're sending trucks from Charlotte to Chicago, why are we not soliciting that receiver to get their business, right? And I'm sure that some are still doing it, but that's something that we were always taught. But it seems like more and more, a lot of the new brokers or agents coming into the industry aren't doing that. And it just seems like kind of a no-brainer to a lot of us to do that. I mean, you've already got the truck there, right? Whatever it is that they're shipping back out of their facility, wouldn't it be better to send your truck in, get them offloaded, reloaded, and back home, or to wherever? And you've already got the truck there. That makes half your sales job to that prospect exponentially easier, right? Pardon me for just one moment. I've been talking so much already. It's already, what, 20 after 1? I'm going to start losing my voice here before too long, right? If that happens, we'll cut short. I won't make you guys suffer through me with my voice, but hopefully not. So network with other people in the industry, right? If you're brand new, find a mentor. They've oftentimes got a lot of tips, maybe even leads, and things that they can provide, or at least sort of point you in the right direction, right? So that's another way of finding customers. Sometimes there's shippers that actually join Facebook groups, right? Or LinkedIn groups. So join those transportation groups on LinkedIn, especially, right? Because they might even mention, and I've seen it before, some of their pain points with, when it comes to, maybe they've got a new lane that they're having trouble getting covered. If you've got the capacity to do that, reach out to them. Maybe they're not shipping to nowhere, Montana. Maybe they're shipping, you know, a new lane that should be fairly easy to cover, but why is it not? Right? Find out what's going on with that. Reach out to them. Ask those questions. Right? Become invested in their operations, what they do, and when you find that out, and maybe the other, you know, maybe they've talked to half a dozen other brokers, but they just went, yeah, you know, but if you can kind of problem solve that, that would be another new customer for you, right? So we've talked a lot about, you know, obviously utilizing social media, directories and things. Another thing that I've done, and it embarrasses my wife to no end, right? And I still catch myself doing it, even though I have a plethora of customers already. Is that sometimes I'll be in like the grocery store or Home Depot or, you know, wherever, and maybe it's a new product that I haven't seen before, and I'm kind of curious. And so I'll flip the label around to find out who the manufacturer is, and I'll take a picture of it with my phone, right? And then when I get home, I research that company, find out who the contact, you know, point of contact is, and, you know, follow up and add them as a new customer, right? Or maybe I have a friend who's struggling to get leads and new customers, and sometimes I'll just pass it on to them. Be like, hey, this seems like a pretty good product, blah blah blah. You know, here's a lead for you. You know, and there's times, guys, if you're a follower of this channel, you can go back through previous videos. I've actually given away free shipper leads before. Sometimes it was produce or something, but you know, or offer, you know, providing you guys with different directories and things like that to go research. So if you're not already a subscriber to the channel, by all means, please subscribe. Not to beg, but but it's something that could benefit you, you know, next time I get ready to do something like that. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can go around doing that. Actually, while you're driving around town, you know, and looking at different businesses, billboards, things like that that you drive past, they're right there in your area. If you like doing face-to-face sales calls, by all means, you know, hit up those companies in your area. Utilize your friends and family. Right? Maybe you've got a friend that works at a steel distributor or a manufacturer or a family member, right? Hit them up, find out who the point of contact is up over there, and go after them. So that's another way that we can find leads, right? And sometimes, you know, having that friend or family to put a good word in for you sometimes can kind of help you get your foot in the door, right? And if you're a brand new freight broker or freight agent, I know I talked about niches in that, but one thing you probably don't want to do, especially if you don't have, you know, you've got your load board and everything, but you don't have your credit score yet, you know, your days to pay, things like this, which I want to touch on that as well. But don't go after big companies. I mean, if you want to, by all means, go ahead. You know, something like General Motors or Kellogg's or whoever, right? Because you're the new kid on the block. Even if you are the greatest salesman in the world, sometimes it kind of doesn't matter. Maybe you get lucky, but focus on those smaller to medium-sized shippers is one thing that I would suggest, because they're going to be a little bit more receptive to you, right? And make sure that you're going back to finding out the point of contact. I've been on numerous where I've listened in on you know, new freight agents or something on the phone, and the gatekeeper picks up the phone and they automatically start selling, right? And I, you know, so you know, and then they of course get shut down. Well, Yep, let me transfer you. It goes to basically a circular file voicemail. There's no introduction like, hey, you've reached so-and-so or anything like that. It's just leave your name, number after the beep kind of a thing. They probably delete it at the end of the day. So always try to find out who your point of contact is, okay, and follow through on that. When you call, it's always easier to get through to them when you can ask for them by name. Oftentimes that gatekeeper thinks that you already have some sort of a working relationship with them, the fact that you know them by name. Another thing that you can do to find leads is go to ecarriercheck.com, and there should be a link that I dropped for you guys down there. They're actually going to be on the show Thursday at noon Eastern, and I'm pretty excited to have them on. It's something that's kind of been in the works for some time. We just kind of getting our schedules coordinated, right? But they have a tremendous amount of shipper leads over there, a tremendous amount of carriers that are listed that you can, call up to build relationships with. So like if you're brand new and you don't have any carriers that, you're currently working with or have talked to, but you landed your first customer, right? Now what? Well, reach out to those carriers that are based in that area, right? Going back to our Charlotte, North Carolina example, reach out to those carriers in Charlotte, North Carolina, or in that immediate area, right? Kind of explain that you've got this customer. Here's the lane. Here's what it pays. Here's the load details and things, and they might be willing to take a chance on you, right? And help you get those loads covered versus just throwing it out on a load board and hoping that a carrier takes a chance on you, right? The other side of that is that carrier is going to want to make sure that he gets paid, right? And if you are a new broker, unless you have the capital to back it up, and even if you do, to make sure that you're paying your carriers in 30 days or less, you're going to need a factoring company probably. A factoring company, well, the right factoring company, because I've seen some that just more or less, they bring you in, you're a number, they process your invoices, and yeah, they offer a few little things, but there's some out there that they don't really help that broker to establish their credit and their days to pay that'll show up on DAT, Truck Stop, and the like. So partnering with the right factoring company can make all the difference in the world. Operify, one of our group partners, there's a link for the contact form down below if you're interested. They actually do spend the time. They're industry professionals. They've been fleet owners. They've been freight brokers in the past. They know the industry, right? They're not just some financial guru that got recruited out of high school or college and said, here's how you do this. And, they're basically like a telemarketer or something. They actually have real world industry experience. They understand carriers and brokers' pain points. They don't have any long-term contracts. Their rates are reasonable. If you're a veteran, or police officer, things like that. There's more information about that. I'm not going to get too long-winded into it, but they offer discounts for veterans as well, and they take on new brokers, right? There are some other factoring companies that do, some don't, because so many new brokerages fail. I think it's an average of 60% kind of fall by the wayside. And honestly, the reason I believe that most new brokerages fail is because they didn't have any prior industry experience. They didn't go get their authority after becoming a freight agent and building a book of business and a carrier following. I think that that's a huge part of it. Sometimes they take a training course that may or may not be complete, probably overpaid for it. And not all training courses are created equal either. So do your due diligence on that. And if you're watching this and you're looking to get into the freight industry and you want a recommendation on a freight training, by all means, you can hit me up. Let me drop my email for you guys real quick here. Where'd I put it? Did I lose my email? Oh, no, there it is. You guys can email me, freightmasterresources@gmail.com. In regards to anything, right? If you guys have a question after the fact, after this video is over or anything, by all means, hit me up. You have questions. And if I don't have the answer, I have such a large network, I guarantee you I know somebody who does, right? Or has a little more experience in a certain area. So by all means, don't be afraid to shoot me an email. I keep it monitored pretty well throughout the day. You're not going to have to wait a week or anything like that for me to reply back to you, right? So yeah, that's why we call this Freight Master Resources, because we really try to provide a lot of tips. We've got the Facebook group. If you're not already a member, I suggest that you join that group. We keep it spam free. It's really kind of evolved beyond my wildest dreams, because it's such a great group of people. The channel is for them and everybody else as well, but just such a really great group of professionals in the group. Very friendly. We don't really get a lot of naysayers, and if we do, maybe somebody's having a bad day or something, I might have to mute them for 24 hours. But aside from that, it's their group as much as it is mine. So by all means, but don't forget to answer those questions, the membership questions, because we need to know who you are, right? If you're just getting into the industry, or if you're a carrier, or maybe you're a veteran in the, veteran freight broker or whatever, don't just leave those blank, because I'm going to end up either just declining it or whatever. And it's just sort of our way of keeping spammers and scammers out of the group. Okay. So that's all I ask on that. But yeah, there's a tremendous number of ways to find. Shipper leads are literally everywhere, right? And you don't have to pay for them. They're littered everywhere, and once you compile your list, you pick your niche, you've compiled your list of prospects and things. For those of you that are newer, or maybe don't come from a sales background or anything, I didn't when I first got into this industry, and boy, did I think I made a bad mistake, right? But fortunately, I had a few people that took mercy on me, and kind of help point me in the right direction, and help me out. And that's why I do what I'm doing today, to hopefully help you guys out, right? Sort of my way of paying it forward. So develop your sales technique, right? Scripts can be fine to an extent, but eventually you're going to want to wean yourself off of that script, right? Because typically, when you use a script, when you call that prospect, it's going to sound like you're calling up, you're reading off of a script. But when you do research on a prospect, right? Maybe they're a manufacturer. Maybe they're a manufacturer in Pennsylvania, let's say in Philadelphia, right? And they're planning on opening up another manufacturing facility in Kansas City. Right? When you call, bring that up during the conversation, right? Show them that you've done your research on them, and that they're not just another call on your list. That's going to be very beneficial when you're making those cold calls, right? And I know I know a lot of you like to just solicit via email. I'm not a big fan of prospecting through email. I know some people who have said that it works out great for them. Never actually seen the numbers. I actually did a test and tried that for for 2 weeks, and my success rate on landing those prospects versus cold calling was way off. I think I maybe landed 1 in 2 weeks versus I think it was like 7 or 9 through cold calling. So something else to keep in mind. I know some people like to do face-to-face, and they like to just show up, which if you're going to do that, show up with a pizza, box of donuts or something, right? It's not like a requirement, but it can help. So do you guys have any comments on this or anything? Maybe something, another way to find shippers that I've not mentioned. Like I said, shipper leads are literally everywhere. There's free directories, social media. I mean, we've covered quite a few, right? And it can kind of be hard to decipher which one to use. Use them all. Use them all. Okay, well, I guess if nobody has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and probably wrap this up. Again, if you're looking for any of the resources, coupon codes, looking to save money, like I said, we've got the great people over at DAT have provided us with a code. When you click the link, you save 10% over the course of the year, which actually it saves you more over the year than the first month free that they had previously offered. So that's a good thing. Again, check out eCarrierCheck. There's a coupon code there for that. You save, I forget what it is, but it's over the course of 3 months. Check them out. If you're still not sure about them, by all means, tune in Thursday at noon Eastern. I'm going to have the great people from over there on to join us, and they're going to explain a little bit more about eCarrierCheck. I love it. I utilize it daily. I truly, truly do. Again, these are all places that I stand behind and that I use. Yeah, I truly believe in these companies, and I've researched numerous others, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Just great group of companies and people with great communication. I can't say enough about them. So if you need any of those resources, by all means, check those links down below. If there's something that I don't have listed that you're looking for, again, email me. Like I said, I have a pretty vast network. So whether it's looking for a bond company or insurance or whatever, right? I might not have it listed, but I know somebody that will treat you fairly and treat you right, and I can pass that recommendation on to you. So you're very welcome. I'm happy to be here. I want to start doing these shows a little bit more regularly. And for those of you that maybe have subscribed and haven't tuned in, or maybe you're new to the channel, I do try to keep the videos, into, what do they call it, like categories there on YouTube for freight brokers, carriers, so if you're looking for more information on sales or things like that, by all means, check that out. We've got a lot of different videos, a lot of different tips. I've covered some of this in the past, and there might be things in the previous videos that I just have forgotten, that maybe I didn't mention and thought I did. But yeah, we've got the websites there for you guys. There I go, getting tongue-tied again. FreightBrokerResources.com or thetruckersresource.com. So if you look in, the Truckers Resource, we've got a list of CDL schools from across the nation, things like that, for you carriers and drivers. If there's something else that you'd like to see listed on the You're a new agent with Armstrong. Congratulations. Congratulations. How's the prospecting going? Are you finding plenty of leads? And again, guys, don't be afraid to email me. I love getting your guys' emails. I really, truly do. It's almost like the highlight of my day when I get that, because it's like, ooh, you know, I get to help somebody. You can't find shippers. William, shoot me an email. Shoot me an email. I probably have some leads that I can help you out with. Just let me know what kind of leads you're looking for. If you've picked out your niche already or not. See, this is what I do, guys. I love helping everybody. I really, truly do. And Apollo said I hit the usage. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but shoot me an email, because I'm gonna shut this video down here in just a moment. Freightmasterresources@gmail.com. It's listed right there on the video at the bottom of the screen. Here, I'll just. There you go. So yeah, shoot me that email. I'll be more than happy to help. Like I said, finding shippers is the easy part. It's the sales, right? And maybe that'll be in the next video that I do. I don't know if I'm going to have a chance to be on tomorrow or not, but maybe Friday, or we'll start off the week Monday going over actual sales calls and that kind of a thing. I know we kind of dabbled a little bit on that during this video, but we could probably elaborate on that, couldn't we? So yeah, maybe we'll plan on doing that Monday. We'll make that a Monday video on handling sales calls, right? Like I said, I know we kind of touched on it a little bit during this video, but it wasn't really the focus. So I just know that finding them is easy, but getting them isn't. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. The hard part is the actual sales. But I do get emails and DMs through Facebook, LinkedIn, and that going, Tim, I can't find shippers. You know, and to some of us that have been in the industry for a while, it seems like kind of a no-brainer. But hey, we all started out somewhere, right? And those new people that come in, maybe whatever training course they took, didn't show them that, right? Mine didn't. When I did mine years and years and years ago, I had no sales background. I didn't know how to find shippers. I didn't know how to network with carriers. I didn't know anything. And that's why I mentioned earlier, like I was like, oh, I made a big mistake, right? I was scared whatless, right? I was a single father of 3 at the time, and yeah, I had my kids full time, and I jumped into this because I thought it would be a great way of not having to rely on unreliable babysitters, things like that. This would just work out great. And man, after 2 weeks, I was like, I don't know about this. So, but like I said, a couple of people in the industry, other veterans at the time, took mercy on me and helped me out. And that's why we're here today, right? To help you out. So, and those of you that are veterans in the industry, if you're not already a member of the group, or if you are, and somebody asks a question, please, let's try to help them out. We shouldn't feel threatened, right? We weren't born with all of this information. We had a mentor or somebody that helped us out, right? And they might not even know the right questions to ask, right? It doesn't hurt us in any way to be kind or helpful to somebody else that's new to the industry, right? Or even if they've been in the industry for a little while and maybe they're looking to expand their book of business. Maybe they've been doing drive-in freight, but their customer says, hey, do you handle drayage too? You know what I mean? Maybe they've never done drayage before, and they're looking for more information on how to handle drayage shipments and what carriers they can network with, that kind, whatever the questions may be. Let's try to help them out, right? So, guys, again, last time I want to remind you, Thursday at noon Eastern, we're going to have the great people from eCarrier Check. Monday, we're going to try to plan that for actually doing sales calls, right? Turning those prospect leads into actual customers, right? So I'm going to try to have everything ready for Monday on that. If you guys ever have any suggestions on what you'd like to see in future videos, by all means, shoot me an email, right? I'll be more than happy to, take your suggestions and hopefully do a video on it at some point. I get bombarded with some of them sometimes, and other times I kind of have, just kind of based off of questions and things like that I get via email and DMs. It's like, okay, well, maybe I need to talk about this, so. But anyway, guys, happy, what day is it? Tuesday? Happy, I forgot what day of the week it was. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. And happy 2024. And I hope that it's a very successful year for everybody. And I'll see y'all Thursday. Bye-bye now.